timing is perfect for the political situation we're living now, where obviously many sorts of neoliberal policies are trying to are being imposed, or they are attempting to impose them on a very undemocratic ways. Anyway, I would like just to emphasize some points, um, more related to the general theoretical framework of your speech, not so much about the application of this theoretical framework to the specific case of the neoliberal higher education. So that maybe we can discuss a little bit more about those implications later. Uh, I think that one of the key points of your speech is the relationship between vital normativity and social normativity. And so I would like to explore a little more this point. Because of course, when you talk of organisms, human or non-human organisms, as beings that are in many different ways normatively related to their environment, and so they need to cope with this vital normativity, which is generated in this relationship. It's a very interesting point, start point. This is, I remember, for example, for the first time I read something in this direction. Is Georges Canguilhem views that organisms are centers of normativity. So and so normativity you cannot apply a general norm to evaluate the needs and what is good or bad for all organisms, but you need to ask how each species or each kind of organism generates their own normativity in their relationship with the environment. So, and then there is the many different social normativities, which are less general than a vital normativity. Of course, when you talk about a vital normativity, we're talking of certain values that are in a certain way universal. Every human form of life shares certain values, which are constitutive for this for the human life as such. And social normativities are historically, politically contingent, but as a sort of ideological device, they are often presented as based on the general human nature, on a general human nature. This is what you say. You say neoliberalism does. Not only with higher education, but with social life and political life as such. There are some things that a neoliberal view of society, of politics, and of education affirms as natural to human beings. So it's natural to human beings to compete. So it's good to foster, to promote competition. It's natural for human beings to be aggressive, so if this competition is aggressive, it's not a bad thing. It's just the way things are, as you say, just the way human beings are. So my point is that, of course, the criticism of a social normativity is far more often done opposing it to an opposing or to a different social normativity. For example, when you oppose a neoliberal view of education, of politics, or social life to a socialist one, for example. So both are two different systems of social normativity, but the criticism of one is usually is more often done by an appeal to the other, to the opposite one. So ask if you would agree with the idea that the investigation, the knowledge about this more general human vital normativity, the constitution of a wider understanding of what kinds of values this vital normativity implies, could be used as a tool, as an instrument for the critique of every of the many different systems of social normativity. Because, in fact, when the discussion enters the ideological field, usually the many different systems of social normativity do the same. They present themselves as natural. They present themselves as defending or as emphasizing the universal values that shape human life as such. Of course, it's never true. Every a system of social normativity has a much more restricted scope, is much more historically contingent, and so what the ideological discourse appeals to this kind of argument. We represent the true human nature. So the criticism that resorts to a specific system of social normativity, be it socialist or neoliberal or any other kind, to criticize another one, I think this has to go in circles, because the same arguments can be formulated from both sides. And the way that you formulated this relationship between vital normativity and the social normativity, I think, opens this opportunity to a critical use of this sort of general knowledge of human life, of the characteristics, the traits, the values that are proper to any form of human life, of human nature as such, as a tool for the critique of the many different systems of social normativity. Because, for example, you said neoliberalism says that these neoliberal values are natural to humans. But often for example, the postmodern or the cross-cultural criticism of neoliberalism usually replies that, oh, there is no such thing as human nature. Human nature is just a social construct. There's nothing natural in human behavior. Every appeal to the idea of a human nature is just an ideological use of an idea, the idea of nature, for example, that is just a discursive construction that has no real existence. But in doing this kind of criticism, I think this criticism of neoliberal assumptions closes the path to this critical use of the idea of a vital normativity. And studies such as a native view of social cognition, as you described, emphasize the main tenets of this approach to social cognition, to affectivity, and to this life-shaping operations that give shape to collective or individual human lives. Maybe a way to explore, to investigate, to know more about this shared vital normativity that to which every human being is related in one way or another. And this is if you look to the biological study of human behavior, human lives, biology says that it's natural to humans to compete, but it's also said that it's natural to humans to collaborate, to cooperate, to sacrifice for each other. So from a scientific point of view, let's say, you cannot select one species-specific characteristic and say this is the true human nature, because the human nature includes also the values and tendencies that are not valued by specific social normativities as so this is my general point. I'd like to review a little bit more about this, because I think this is suggested in your text, but it's not fully explored. There are a few mentions in the conclusion. For example, there are some hints, some suggestions, a few mentions of what would be the values and the characteristics of this by the system of vital normativities that all humans share. You mentioned humans are curious, naturally curious. Humans have knowledge as a value, independent of the how much money we can make from this knowledge. And human beings want to flourish. And so there are a few hints, but I would like to maybe you could talk a little bit more about this to just my idea to push the discussion a step further. Thank you very much. Sim, eu perguntei da relação entre a ideia de uma normatividade vital e de uma normatividade social, né? Porque ela mencionou como o neoliberalismo, na verdade, ideologicamente, propõe como naturais para os seres humanos certos valores que são, na verdade, específicos do sistema de normatividade social que é representado pelo neoliberalismo, né? E aí eu comentei que normalmente a crítica de um certo sistema de normatividade social é feito opondo esse sistema ao sistema contrário, por exemplo, opondo o sistema de normatividade social neoliberal ao socialista, por exemplo, né? E que normalmente a defesa de cada um dos sistemas apela para o mesmo tipo de argumento, ou seja, propõe seus valores específicos como valores humanos universais, e que por isso esse é o sistema certo e esse é o sistema que tem que ser defendido, tem que ser implantado, né? E aí eu perguntei, me pareceu que pela maneira como ela colocou a relação entre normatividade vital e normatividade social, essa ideia de normatividade vital poderia ser usada como um parâmetro para a crítica de qualquer sistema de normatividade social. Ou seja, à medida que uma normatividade vital vai procurar identificar aqueles valores que são realmente compartilhados por todos os seres humanos, que são inerentes à vida humana, que caracterizam, que constituem a forma humana de vida, né? E por isso poderia ser usado então como parâmetro para a crítica dos diferentes sistemas de normatividade social, escapando um pouco a esse jogo de ping-pong, onde cada um dos sistemas, os defensores de cada um dos sistemas procuram apresentar como naturais aqueles valores que são específicos desse sistema, que são muito mais localizados, contingentes, né, historicamente situados, do que um sistema de normatividade vital, que em princípio seria característico da espécie humana como tal. Dei o exemplo no final da crítica a crítica pós-moderna ou a crítica transcultural do modelo neoliberal, que, por um lado, o modelo neoliberal afirma os seus valores como sendo naturais para a vida humana, enquanto que a crítica pós-moderna ou pós-cultural fala não existe nada natural, a natureza não existe, a natureza é só uma construção social e assim por diante. Esse tipo de contra-argumento se privaria, então, de usar a ideia de normatividade vital como um instrumento de crítica para os diferentes sistemas de normatividade social.
So I think the general question, you're wanting more information about the natural sort of desires and tendencies that I kind of gesture at. And in terms of their being natural, I think it's, when I talked about knowledge and curiosity, I just reference Aristotle there. Like, I don't really have a good argument for that at a biological level, although I guess from the standpoint of adapting and surviving in precarious conditions, maybe you could build on that somehow and talk about like a distinctively, human mode of adapting. But I think social interaction is more interesting because there you can actually point to the nature of social cognition from a very early age before more sophisticated cognition develops, and the kinds of things that start to occur naturally and spontaneously with infants, where they're like imitating facial gestures of caretakers, and they're engaged in gaze following and joint attention. And there's this, it seems to be natural desire to be connected to other people around them, and like smiling starts so early. So I mean, I would absolutely agree that there's some natural tendency to be competitive, and I wouldn't want to deny that. I do think there's also a natural desire for connection and cooperation and working together with other people. And I guess with the concern about neoliberal ideology institutions would be that it cultivates the self-interest competitive aspect, and cooperation becomes just a means to advancing your own interests, or that's how it encourages us to view things. Whereas I think something like empathy and a genuine concern for other people is kind of built right in from the moment humans are born.
É fácil. Você pegou no geral.
Eu cito
enfatiza a questão do desejo natural de laços sociais, de empatia e tal,
pelo que eu entendi, mas, embora eu ache mais interessante pensar isso no nível da normatividade social do que do ponto de vista biológico, por exemplo, né? Mas sim, não nega que tem algumas tendências naturais, e que o neoliberalismo faz é escolher algumas e fazer delas as tendências privilegiadas e não as únicas, e considerar as demais, ou considerá-las apenas um meio para um fim. Então, a competição é o fim último, e se existe cooperação, cooperação é apenas um meio para o fim. Você coopera com alguns para competir melhor com os outros, né? Mas não considera a cooperação como um fim em si mesmo, né? Então, ela acha que não, né? A colaboração, a cooperação, o desejo de saber, o desejo de conexão em si fazem parte da natureza humana, são valores que os seres humanos naturalmente têm como fim em si mesmo, não apenas como valor instrumental, né, para outra